All right, let's jump right in. Today we're looking at something, well, something incredibly profound about human nature that was discovered under the most extreme conditions you can possibly imagine. It's a story that's about way more than just physical survival. It's about the battle for bread and a choice in suffering.
So it all really boils down to this one really powerful idea. Morality starves before the body does. It's a pretty grim thought, right? It suggests that our ethics are basically the first thing to go when our survival is on the line. But, as we're about to find out, that's not the full picture. Not even close. Okay, so to really get a handle on the choices people were making, you first have to picture the world they were in. We have to talk about the central torture. That point where survival literally becomes the only thing that matters.
In a place filled with unimaginable suffering, fear, cold, exhaustion, you'd think any one of those could be the worst. But no. The source material is crystal clear. Starvation becomes the central torture. It's this all-consuming force that just warps everything. And here's what that reality looked like, day in and day out. A bit of watery soup, a single crust of stale bread. But here's the thing you have to understand. This wasn't just about food. This one tiny meal determined everything, not just who lived and who died, but the very fabric of their morality.
And all of this, well, it leads to what you could call a moral abyss. It's that slide into what you'd expect to happen when people are pushed way, way past their breaking point.
And the response is just as brutal as you'd imagine. I mean, people become so desperate they're literally clawing at each other for crumbs.
And from there, it just gets darker. Any sense of a moral line just seems to vanish. Some people would steal from those who were literally moments from death.
Even something as fundamental as trust is gone, sacrificed. People whisper lies, turn on each other just for a tiny bit more food. It really paints this grim picture, right, where it feels like our humanity just gets erased by the need to survive. It seems unavoidable.
But then, right when you think you've seen the absolute worst of it, the story just flips on its head. This is where we see an astonishing choice, a total turn against everything we'd expect.
So you have to ask yourself, right? When faced with this kind of horror, is that animalistic struggle the only way? Is that the only possible human response?
And the answer is just incredible. It's a hard no, because the source reveals this. Yet others, and this is the key word here, astonishingly share their bread. That word, astonishingly, tells you everything. It shows you just how miraculous, how completely counterintuitive this act was.
And let's just be really clear about the stakes here. They did this even when they themselves were starving. This isn't sharing when you have plenty. This is giving away the very thing that was keeping them alive. It's an act of pure, unbelievable sacrifice.
So what are we supposed to make of this? You have these two completely opposite reactions in the exact same horrible situation. This is what leads us to the Great Divide, Viktor Frankl's core revelation from everything he saw. There's this common idea that suffering is a great equalizer, that it strips us all down to the same basic core. But what Frankl found was the complete opposite. Extreme suffering doesn't make people equal at all. It's a separator. It divides them sharply. And here's that division, laid out perfectly. You've basically got two paths. On one side, you have the corrupted, the people who let the suffering eat away at their humanity. But on the other, you have the transformed, the ones who somehow manage to turn that exact same suffering into an act of sacrifice. So here is the real takeaway, the thing that changes everything. Suffering isn't a test that builds your character. It's a revealer. It peels everything back and shows the character that was already there all along. It forces you to choose between the worst and the best parts of yourself. And that's the question this whole thing leaves us with, isn't it? It's a question that goes way beyond the story, a question for all of us. In the face of our own suffering, whether it's big or small, who do we choose to be?